Hey all, in this video, I'm going to show you how to calculate the difference between your submit button and your first click into the page using the timing on questions in Qualtrics. So first, we want to make sure we have this set up correctly. You can see that, I can make this a little bit bigger here. You can see that this is Q1, this is the first click. And this is for our control condition right here. So you can see that they were in the control condition. And so I'm going to call this, I'm going to say, control first click. And then I'm not going to use the last click. You can if you want to. You make that decision as the researcher. I'm going to use the page submit button because that's how long it took them to submit in this case. It's going to depend on your research design, but the page submit button is likely what you're going to use. So I'm going to say control page submit. So I'm just going to change this name so that it's a little easier for me to tell what's going on here. I don't need this variable, the click count. I'm not going to use this one. I'll leave them there. I could rename them again, control last click if I wanted to. I do want to change this. I'm going to change this to experimental, and I'm just going to say EXP, experimental first click. I'll leave that last click, and I'll change this to the experimental page submit. Again, I'm not going to use the click count. And then, I mean, you could look at this. So it depends on, again, your study, if that's important. But I'm not going to look at that information. So now what I want to do is I'm going to create a new variable here. And I'm going to say new computed variable. What I'm going to do is I only want to count these. I only want to subtract this from this to get the total spent on that page if they were in the control condition. If they were in the experimental condition, I want to subtract this first click from the page submit. So the way that you can do that is with an if statement, which is basically a logic statement. I'm going to call this time. You could also just say like dependent variable. So say dependent variable time. And I want to put a note in here that this is time. I'll say page submit minus first click. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if, and this if statement, I'm going to say if my independent variable, which is right here, if my independent variable, if IV equals, and I have to use equals, it's a Jamovi thing, it's part of the way the coding works. I'm going to say if it equals control, so I'm going to use quotations, and I'm going to say control because it's a word. That's the way that that is set up. If it equals control, what I want to do is I want to, and I'm going to click on this little formula editor. I want to take control page submit. Oops. And notice it skipped to the front there. Sometimes it does that. So you have to watch what you're doing. There we go. So control page submit minus the control first click. So this is going to be for our control condition. So if it's control condition, then we're going to subtract the first click in the control condition from this page submit in the control condition. But if it doesn't, then we're going to do that for the experimental condition. So I would say page submit minus first click. So now when I close that off, you'll notice that I don't have any errors here. It gave me this here. You can always check it to make sure that it calculated correctly. I can tell looking at these two numbers that that looks about right. And then you can see here that there's some blank ones. That's good. You don't want them to fill something in if they didn't spend any time on it. So these people didn't complete it. So you want that to happen, and it does that automatically. So that's how you calculate the dependent variable when you have a between subjects design and the timing was measured in two different blocks in your in Qualtrics. So that is what you will do for your dependent variable. You can then add notes if you say that we have this page submit minus first click. You could add additional notes if that's helpful. I always like to label it with dependent variable if it's the dependent variable, just so that it's easy to tell what we have there. So now in this example, we have an independent variable and we have a dependent variable, and it is ready for analysis.